What's going on, everybody? It's Q Jackson, host of BLK Talk. Look, I was over here preparing for another amazing episode, but look, I need you guys to go ahead and hit the subscribe button, the like button, and the notification bell so that you guys don't miss any of our amazing conversations. Have a new episode coming to you in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
What's going on, everybody? It's Q Jackson, host of BLK Talk, and I'm here with another amazing guest and another amazing episode. Today's episode is amazing because we all know that this year we are electing, possibly, hopefully, our first Black female president. And on the cusp of Election Day, I'm here with a man who is a part of America's growth, I would say. A young individual who has taken it upon himself to get into politics and take over like none other. So I would like you guys to welcome, Jayden Williams to BLK Talk. Thank you for joining me today.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. That was an introduction. I have to give it to you. But I'm just here to be a community server.
I mean, I think that introduction did not do you justice because you've been out here doing some amazing things. For the people who may not know, Jayden is about to start running for mayor of Stockbridge. Okay, now if you guys are familiar with Stockbridge, Georgia, like I've posted a lot about Stockbridge because I hit up the amphitheater a lot. Okay, there are so many events that go on in Stockbridge, and it is one of my favorite places for entertainment, aside from the city of Atlanta, of course. But Stockbridge, why Stockbridge?
Stockbridge is home for me.
Mm-hmm.
For me, Stockbridge is where I did my education. It's where I got my grounding in politics and policy, in the understanding of family assets. So for me, Stockbridge was a stepping stone. I told myself while I'm studying political science at Clark Atlanta University, I said, I'm not going to start my political career without starting at my home. I can't go and grow and change Georgia or change the country, and my home, my house is not in order. So I got to start there.
So let's take it back a little bit. Who is Jayden? Before the politics, during the politics, who is Jayden Williams?
Ooh, that is a question. Jayden is someone who follows the destiny that God has placed on his life. He's somebody who takes family first in everything, along with God. Somebody that's ready to fight, so you got to be ready to take it. But he doesn't give up. That's Jayden.
So who were you as a child, as a teenager, and now as an adult that led you to where you are right now?
So I have to be honest with you. I started my career as a teenager. So as a child, I was a normal Black kid in Georgia, country, walking around with my shoes off, eating a hot pickle.
I know that's not Atlanta. I don't even think that's Stockbridge. What part of Georgia is that?
That is back in my family's time. That's Hawkinsville, Georgia.
Now, where is that?
It's right above Valdosta, right before you get to the cusp of Florida.
Okay, a whole bunch of land, whole bunch of animals.
Animals and land, that's all we got.
Wearing cowboy boots.
Cowboy boots and our cousins, that's it.
So what brought you from Hawkinsville to Stockbridge?
So my family kind of migrated up overall. But I can tell you, my grandmother, who's a county commissioner in Henry County, she's one of the early classes of Black graduates at Georgia State.
Wow.
And coming from Georgia State in Hawkinsville, my great-grandfather would tell her, when you're going up to school, never stop in Henry County. Henry County was literally the epitome of white supremacy. It was where Black people can't stop to look, Black people can't stop for gas, to eat. And so they would always say, stop, don't go. Keep going past Henry County. Stop in Clayton, stop in Gwinnett, but never stop in Henry County. And so that's kind of where we laid our foundation, because it was the fight to change, the fight to want more. And so she ultimately ended up becoming the first Black female to sit in the county commission for District 4.
Wow. So your grandmother pretty much just woke up and said, you know what, I feel like a fight today.
Yeah.
And I'm going to plant my roots in a place that I was told not to. And she made a change.
She made a change.
And that inspired you. Well, I mean, I'm pretty sure you weren't there when that happened, but as you came along and got to know her, that is something that probably inspired you.
Yeah, so I was there when she did her first campaign, but she's been there for a while. As my mom, my aunts, they all went to school in Henry County as well. But it's really just the base of how our family values kind of have grown, specifically in Stockbridge, but also in Henry County.
Okay. So this year, you decided to take a major step, okay, and run for mayor. Okay. For mayor. Now that's pretty big. Now, what inspired you to want to do that? Is there something that you saw in the city where you felt like Jayden Williams, could make the change that's needed? Or like what was it?
Yeah, so I've run campaigns for people. We win. But when you do it for yourself,
all right, Mr. Olivia Pope,
it's handled. But when you do it for yourself, it's a little bit harder because you want everything to be perfect. And so when I was not really wanting to run, I was just like, what can I do to make a change? And so I went to a council meeting. Ultimately, they put me on the planning commission. So now I serve as one of the youngest planning commissioners in the state.
Wow.
But they put me on the planning commission, and I see the injustices. I'm here. I hear it from the staff. I hear it from community members who come to our meetings, and they're yelling at us, but in reality, they're talking about the council and the mayor. And so that's when I made the decision. I'm like, yo, we need some change. We need some progression in our city. And what really shocked me was not even 10 years ago, we were the #1 fastest growing urban city in the state, to going from #1 to almost 1,000 and something. That hurt. And so and I'm not trying to be shady to our current mayor, but he sat on the council for 2 terms rather. He did a great job on council. But when he became mayor, the effectiveness died off with it. And so when I decided to run for mayor, it's because it's time for a change. And so I went from our city deserves better to we're ready to lead together. Because in order to lead, you can't lead without the community behind you.
Now, saying what you just said regarding the mayor and, different things that occurred once he got into office, do you feel that like the older generation of politicians are set in their ways, and with you coming in, it allows, I guess, a certain type of freshness and a certain type of togetherness, as you mentioned?
See, I love that question, but what we have to question ourselves on with that question is, where did this old generation get their set of ways? Because when our country was founded, it was founded by people who were in their early 20s, 30s. So we have very.
Look, now George Washington was 97 when he became president.
See, but that was president. But when he was building the country, all of the people he had behind him were young. Our financial guy, Hamilton, he was in his 20s when he did that. So when we look at that, we have to see, well, how did you get the ways that you're set in? But I can't honestly say that it's a generation that's stuck in their ways. But what I can say is it's time for generations past and new upcoming to understand that in order to progress, we got to work together. So we can't just be one way or the highway. We got to do it progressively.
So I've had the opportunity to be in the same room with some of the people that are a part of like Stockbridge's city council and things like that. And some of them are a little older. Now for you, when you came in, being one of the youngest individuals, how did they receive you? And how did you kind of prove yourself to them?
So I have to be honest with you. Council approved me unanimously. So I'm grateful for the mayor and council for putting me on the commission. But I think they knew I was coming. So I served as the youth mayor for the city, for the Stockbridge Youth Council, 2 terms. I was our first male rather, to be in that position. And then I went on to the commission, and they were ready for me. They put me on, but I can tell by my fellow commissioners on the commission, they're like, what does this guy know about planning and zoning? So the first meeting, I was like, I abstained only because I was not aware. I had just joined. And so the next meeting, I remember Commissioner Thibodeau saying, I'm going to defer to the young fella. I want to see what he's talking about. I sat there, asked about 35 questions. The staff is like, what's going on? Where is he getting this stuff from? This is not bylaws. Why are you asking? But that's the questions that we're asking as a community. That's a question not only as a commissioner. I live in the city, so I want to know what's happening in my city as well as make the decision along with the commissioners. And so I think that was when they tried to test my gangsters, what I like to say. But I had to let them know I'm here. We got some work to do. So now it's kind of a respect thing, but it's always a balance.
So when they see you come in, what do they say? Is it like, oh Lord, here's Jayden again, or is it like an excitement, like, oh, he's back?
So I would have to say, I think it's kind of refreshing because we meet once a month. So it's like, hey, Commissioner, how are you? Hey, Commissioner, my boy. Hey, how are you? But the community is like, ooh, this is the one I was telling you about. He asks the questions we want to ask. He makes those decisions based off of this and not how they feel. One thing I've learned is you can't put feelings in business, and you can't put feelings in decisions that won't just affect you.
But the thing is, if it is something that affects you, how can you keep your emotions out of that?
Yeah, so and that just goes back to you making the conscious decision of what's best. What are you going to decide? You're going to decide off of the rule, or are you going to decide off the people in the rule? And sometimes we make those tough decisions where we have to pick one, but it's how you make it. It's the unanimous decision.
Okay. Now, this year, a lot more people have gotten involved in politics. There are a lot of young people, a lot of older people. A lot of people are coming together because the two individuals that are running, one is like that refreshing feeling. The other one reminds you of America's past. And although we are trying to move forward, there are a lot of people out here that are energized, and we are 24 hours ish away from something that could be a major change in the world. Either way, it's going to be a major change. Now, what part have you been playing in that, in the city of Atlanta, Stockbridge, and the Georgia area?
Yeah, so I split my time up. When one of the candidates stepped down and a new candidate rose, it was originally time. Okay, now it's time to get on the ground. So I split it up. Two things you do is you mobilize, you register. The second thing is you mobilize and educate. So from the time she got in to the time where the deadline was to end registration, I'm registering. I'm getting all of these high schools. I'm getting all the young people who aren't registered to vote, or I'm getting people who thought they weren't eligible to vote. In reality, they could appeal. For example, our felons who don't understand the process, that they can appeal and get their right back.
So real quick on that. Now, are there any things that will cause them to not be able to win that appeal?
Yeah, it really depends on the judgment itself and the actual benefit of what you've done. So it's rules that we kind of go over, we look through it, and then we start that appealment process. I wouldn't start it if you knew, you did something a little crazy.
Yeah.
But that's really that process. But I saw that and I said, okay, now we got to register. After that deadline of registration for this election, it's time to educate. It's time to get out here and say, hey, you know this? Do you know this? Such and so said that chickens should be red or blue. And then to come over here, no, she said they're supposed to be what their God-given color is. So it's really a back-to-back of you educating, but not only educating, but also mobilizing. So you can't educate somebody and they don't have the access and opportunities to actually take action. So it's more education and taking action.
Okay. Now, both candidates have been in Georgia, in Atlanta, a lot. I feel like Kamala's been here over 10 times. The other one, there's certain names that we don't say. The other one has been here quite a few times as well. Why is Georgia so important?
So Georgia is a heavy battleground state. And so for us to have state leaders that are Republican, but win a presidential election for the country is huge. That makes us battleground. With that, it all came down in 2020 to over a little under 12,000 votes. 11,000 votes split that. So if you break that down, for all the precincts that are in the county, that's 4 votes per precinct. And so now they're like, okay, we know that Georgia is the deciding factor, because not only from 2020 to now did our registration increase, but the lay of the land has increased. So now we have to see, okay, what is Georgia doing that's so premier? So instead of just coming out to say, hey, I'm here, I'm running for president, they have to target specific groups, interest groups, PACs, specific community organizations to say, hey, We need your support because we need the people that you have. That's what's so important about Georgia. We fighting back.
You know, you said 12,000 votes was a deciding factor. And I sit here and think about some conversations that I've had over the past few months. Now, it was before we found out Kamala was actually going to be running for president. It was when Biden and the other person were going head to head. A lot of people said, my vote's not going to matter. You know, it's like picking the lesser of two evils. And so a lot of people said because of that, they were going to sit out. Now, those very people who I heard were going to sit out are now out there. They've done the early voting and they're excited again.
Yeah.
So with all of this, why do you think the world needs this?
I want to say it's a fresh wave. And I'm not going to say it's a fresh wave of a specific color, of a specific party, but it's refreshing to see change. And I love what Michelle Obama said at the DNC during her speech when she was endorsing Kamala Harris. She said, I can still feel the sense of hope lingering around our country, because we honestly thought hope was gone after Obama. And so when she said that, that sparked something different in a lot of our eyes, because like, yo, I see it. Mm-hmm. I have to say, Kamala Harris is pushing initiatives that a lot of us did not expect to see for at least another 10, 20 years. And she's pushing it, saying, I'm going to pass it. She has representatives, Republican and Democrat, saying, we're going to back her in passing this bill. I don't really think it's more so the trust in the bill and the people, but it's really the person. And so when you see that respect for a person, it's like, okay, we got some work to do.
Now, the government, is changing. If and when she does, because we're going to speak that into existence, when she does get into office, she's saying that she's going to have Republicans on her team. Like, this is something that really, as far as, the general public knows, this is something that has really never happened before. But now you have people that are not necessarily switching parties, but, willing to have those conversations to make the country what it needs to be. Like, how does that feel being a part of like those different type of conversations and change?
Yeah, so people are putting country over party. And that's the purpose of our republic. Because a lot of people say, oh, we're democracy, we're a republic per the Constitution. And so we're putting the country first over party, which is also why George Washington never wanted parties to exist. Because we actually see exactly what he said would happen to it. They're doing it because she understands also you have to have both sides. You can't win with just one. And we've seen that countless times, even with the George Floyd bill, the Congressman John Lewis voting bill. You can't have just one party. You have to have both to be successful. And if she wants to be an effective president, she got some work to do. So she's being strategic with it.
So if and when Jayden Williams becomes mayor of Stockbridge, what are some things that you feel have to happen in order to make that city like in the top 10 again?
It's a lot that has to happen, but if I were to give you top three, I would say one is good governance. Our government leaders, they're too busy fighting in-house, and there's no producing excellence out-house. It's too much of that. We have to stop that. That is not what the citizens elect us to do. That's number one. Number two is we need a housing strategy that benefits the community. I have to be honest with you. Henry County has always been a retirement county. It's been a military retirement, AARP retirement kind of community. And we all know that. But it's now coming to an era where we have young professionals coming. We have single family household. We have our parents who are newlyweds who wanting to start a family, but they want to start it in Henry County, specifically Stockbridge, which is a plus for me. But we have to realize we have to build what they want. Now we have to have a section for our young professionals and our singles who are like, I just want a condo, I just want a townhouse, I just want an apartment. But for those that are wanting to retire in homes who want to buy it, not rent it, we have to accommodate that as well, and we've stopped accommodating that. So I want to bring a 10-year housing strategy that will push across the city that will allow apartments, condos, townhomes, and also a balance of housing. Because we're building our apartments, and to be honest, it's making our city look a mess. I'm not proud of how my city is looking right now. I'm not even proud to say, oh yeah, they're like, ooh, what is that place with all these apartments? Yeah, that's Stockbridge. You don't even have to say the name. I know what it is.
Yeah.
Because that's all we're building, and then we're bringing businesses that don't support our economic development.
Now, how is that?
So we have a specific district, I want to say it's District 5, that gets most of the development. And it's because they put most of the future land use in that area. So we have to find ways now to go back to the other districts and build up because we can't build out. So for example, the Costco, the Sprouts, the Chipotle, the 2-story Chick-fil-A, that helps in that district.
Yeah.
But what are we doing to produce that across the entire city?
So why is that though? Like I do remember a few years ago, I think it was an RV park or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was nothing, and they felt the need to bring, I guess, that type of lifestyle to the South Side because everybody was driving up to Atlanta, dealing with all of that traffic when you can have that very thing in your own backyard. Why is it important to bring that type of stuff to Stockbridge?
So that's been something we, as a community, have been fighting for years, wanting to bring that entertainment area, but also bring that homey sense back.
Mm-hmm.
And so certain things, of course, we won't bring because that's too flashy. We're not Atlanta, we're Stockbridge. So it's certain things that we can and cannot add, but that aspect specifically, are where I can call it Bridges at Jodico, which is what it's called. It just brings that sense of I don't have to go too far now to do what I want to do. I can live in what I want to live in, but also not be in 5 o'clock traffic, 3 o'clock traffic, because we have that urban rural sense of living and then go into the urban living.
Now, what's not too flashy? Now, y'all done brought Monica and Tamar. Y'all done brought Patty LaBelle out to Stockbridge. Like, what's considered, in your opinion, not too flashy?
So that's flashy. Now, we love Patty, we love Tamar, we love Monica. But you see, we put that in a specific area. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm going to be honest, I'm not the biggest fan of the placement of the amphitheater. I just don't think it should be in an area where you're supposed to produce government for your city.
Because it's right behind
the city hall. And it's not something I would have done. But that does help the community. That brings that engagement back that I was talking about for those that are staying over at Bridges. So I love the amphitheater. I have to give them the credit that they did something huge for that area, but now they got to keep the competition with surrounding cities.
So for the Jayden who was 15 years old versus the Jayden now, is there anything that you've learned about yourself that you would have gone back and kind of shared with the younger version of you?
Ooh, all the time. I definitely believe in when people are like, oh, I feel like I'm in deja vu. I feel like I've seen this before. But I would really call it deja vu because I know the Bible says the young men will receive vision of what's to come. And so I'm like, I'm seeing what's to come now, but it's like, oh, I feel like a dream to me because I'm now in it. Honestly, the 15-year-old Jayden will be like, what in the world did you get yourself into? Honestly, it's the quiet one. Not really the quiet one, the quiet extrovert. You know, that one friend who's always loud, but will sit back and just kind of peep things out.
I'm that friend.
So that was old Jayden. Now Jayden's just kind of like here. I'm full extrovert. I'm talk to everybody. You see the full country detail of me. You know, in the South, everybody's your cousin. So you walk in, hey there.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, hey, what's going on?
Did you grow up in the church? You did. Yeah. Now, how did the church influence you as a person and I guess as a politician?
I wouldn't necessarily say the church influenced my ways of, pushing politics or anything like that. But I will say that church is, I guess, the semi-foundation for my way of life when following the Bible and following how the Bible tells us to live our life and kind of build upon that. But what I can say is church is life to me. I love a good stomp and shout, but it's all about the depth of the word that really kind of changes. I really hate when people say, I'm going to repent on Sunday. I'll be back out tomorrow. It doesn't really help because it's not benefiting the church. It's the benefit for you. But the church plays a pivotal role. My great grandfather started a Church of God by Faith church out in Oglethorpe, Georgia. My great grandmother still goes there, but we kind of moved up, and now I'm at TOP. It's really about how you fulfill that word. If it's getting you closer to your destiny, are you being fed, or is your cup empty?
Now, speaking of depth of words, what is something that you would say to that young individual who may want to get into politics or may want to make a change but don't know how they can get their foot in the door? What do you say to that person who, like some people I had mentioned earlier, are going to sit at home or were going to sit at home during important elections like this? People who need to know that their voices actually matter. What are some things that you would say to those people?
Make sure you register to vote.
Number one. Mm-hmm.
Number one. Number two, get active. I made it a priority when I hit ninth grade. I made it a priority. My mayor should know my name. The council should know my name. Me and the city clerk need to go have lunch once a month. It's the building that relationship. You don't want to say, oh, I want to get into politics, but you don't understand the lay of the land of it. So the first step is to always break down where you are. I don't really go based off the demographics of what's on social media or what's on the internet. I look at the demographics of what's active, who's engaging, what's the age, what's the gender, what's the race of that do the most for a specific Stockbridge. I just kind of see, how are we doing this? How are we doing that? How are we connecting with our schools? And so that's really how you get engaged with that young person. You start small and build up. You start building, if you're in high school, start building with your principal. I started in high school, but the only reason I started in high school was because one of my classmates and his mom got killed in a domestic violence situation. Domestic violence is very serious for my family, as many of our family members have experienced that. When that happened, I went to the mayor and council of Stockbridge to try to get, a visual, a candlelight. They denied me. I called my county commissioners and I said, hey, I need a stage, I need a mic, and I need you to let me use the park. Within an hour, I had all of that set. The next day, we had the candlelight visual right across the street from the neighborhood.
So you don't take no for an answer.
We don't take no for an answer, but that's how you have to be in politics. Did that, and that was really my footprint into politics, because we were like, who is this young man from Henry County? And it's shut up from there.
Okay. Now, as we wrap this thing up, are there any things that you want to say to the people out there that may be moving to Stockbridge, the people that are in Stockbridge? Why should they vote for you? Why should they consider that freshness that is Jayden Williams?
Yeah, so for those that are moving to Stockbridge, I implore you to get involved in your city. We have multiple avenues for you to connect with us. When I say us, city officials, whether it's the mayor, council, commissions, business commission, and just get to know your city. Don't just move into an area and you don't get involved. That's a kill for a move. But for those that are in the city of Stockbridge, I thank you for your love. I thank you for your courage, because our city is a family. And so that's why the main purpose of my campaign is ready to lead together. Because I know it, as mayor, once elected, it's time that we work together. It's time that the community has a say in what's going on. It's time that we get back to that top 10 of urban development. It's time that we focus on the community that we have now before looking out beyond for those that are coming in. And then it's also important that we build that diverse DEI, is what we call it, for a lot of our opportunities and our students. We got to talk about the next generation.
Absolutely. Now tell the people where they can follow you, where they can donate, where they can participate in anything that you have coming up.
Yeah, so you can follow me on social media or Facebook at Jayden for Stockbridge, or you can type in Jayden Williams for Stockbridge Mayor. You can donate at JaydenForStockbridge.com and learn more about me, my platform, and who I am.
All right, Jayden, I absolutely appreciate you. I wish you luck. Now, when you become mayor, I'm going to move from where I'm at now to Stockbridge.
I need you to come and vote for me.
Oh, so I need to move.
You need to move before.
I just moved.
See? And what if I could have got you a little deal? You could have hosted a amphitheater show for me. See.
You know, we'll talk after this because you know it ain't nothing to break a lease. But thank you guys for tuning in to BLK Talk. Thank you, Jayden, for joining us. Make sure you guys get out and vote. Okay, whether it's today, tomorrow, next year, just make sure you do it because you are a part of the change. And make sure you guys tune in to another episode of BLK Talk next time.